All right. Okay. You see the title? Let me go ahead and start out with my framing. My framing is going to be with this whole business of what word should I use? I'm just going to say virus. This whole virus business has stoked up a lot of anti-Chinese stuff. Now, I've seen a lot of these folks, a lot of the America Firsters and other folks that say, well, we're not for Trump, but we don't like China. And then they post the videos of China, the animals in Asia and how they are treated. It is exploitative. And it is baiting of the worst kind. I'm just going to say that. It is baiting. I'm not going to say anything to the Asians getting beat up because I can't speak for that. A lot of that, other than a few videos here and there, that hasn't been fully verified. There's been a lot of stories. There's a lot of folks who are baiting that as well. So just like anything else, is that it's not just one side. It can be both. It's dare we say it, but I know that centrists were really, BTFO'd back in, the days of Charlottesville back in 2017. But, I think we've moved past that a little bit. We in the United States, because of, dare I use these terms, because of privilege, take more value in animals, whether that be dogs, cats, squirrels to a point. I'm just pick squirrel. It's just the first thing that came out of my head. But, hedgehogs, whatever the case may be, people are getting all sorts of different exotic animals. And unfortunately, they abuse them. Now, I'm trying to be very delicate with my words here. But when you show these videos and when you retweet videos about how Chinese or how Japanese folks or how whoever in Asia and how they treat animals, I don't agree with it. All right. But I find it exploitative and it's baiting when you do that. There is a line to me that you should not cross. And that to me, this is simply a form of character assassination when you post those types of videos. So when you're, it's like, I know that a lot of the Wignats, once again, they've kind of gone to the China thing where it's like, don't blame China for the coronavirus. Why does it seem that the Wignats, who are the ones who now have, taken the L in so many other ways, are the ones that are actually speaking sense? Where they say, maybe we shouldn't just shit on China. That doesn't mean, well, we should love China and, let's all start singing the Chinese national anthem and just say, hey, Shungdi, haola, haola, and let's all start speaking Mandarin. No. It's the idea that it's their culture. They don't have the amenities that we had. They didn't have a Dr. Willis Carrier to help create air conditioning. And eventually, with the creation of air conditioning, which was originally for, basically, drying wet paper, I believe. I think it was print. And then it evolved that way. And that the Chinese, they do have a word for air conditioning. They have Kongtiao. But they don't use refrigeration in the same way. They also have an older culture. It's the same thing with African countries as well. We have to be smart on a very basic level. We don't want to be fetishists or use this idea of noble savage, but we don't want to be the people that are like, well, they're savages and they're evil and, oh, look what they do to animals. Dare I say it once again, is that we have to take more of a centrist route and say, you know what? Yeah, there are some bad things that go on. But guess what? We're not going to sit here and praise them either for every single little thing. We have to find that middle ground. I know, oh my gosh, we have to actually use context and we have to use information. I know it's easy. It's easy to take the bait. When I was younger, and just, I'll probably still do the same thing, is that it's easy to take the bait and just say, yeah, ha ha. You click on that first article and you say, I got him. And then you look at it and it's Breitbart, and then they'll just say, ha ha, no, it's Breitbart. We're not going to listen to you. Don't fall into that trap. We have to try to use, dare I say it, the facts and logics mean, but damn it, we got to do that. We got to stop trying to. It just, I get frustrated, I think to, even on TV nowadays, the ASPCA commercials, and then you'll have Sarah McLachlan, in the arms of an angel. And then they show that dog that's shaking, that's got cuts on its face or whatever. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting and exploitative. I don't care what you say. You can go ahead and say it's wrong for me to say that. It is. When the ASPCA puts out commercials like that, I understand. In this capitalist system, you do what you have to do to get money. I get it. We all have to do that. But it's so exploitative. And people turn it off. My mom cannot watch commercials like that. Most Americans cannot watch commercials like that. Because they are depressing. They're sad. People don't want to watch that. So they will, it's like, and they'll always turn it up. They'll always turn those commercials up the loudest. They'll be louder than the actual show. And people will just mute those commercials, or they'll change the channel for a little bit until the show comes back on when they think it's back on. Is it back on? Now the commercial's still on. That's how people think. So, and of course, I know, I would be amiss if I didn't title this on exploitation and I did not talk in, or at least give lip service to the idea that, yes, the exploitation that exists in the United States, that exists in the third world, that exists wherever exists. With Amazon, who I've bought many books from recently. I'll just be honest. The exploitation that I help pay for with these poor folks that could be getting sick, that are working 40 hours a week in rough conditions in these warehouses. And I've done similar work. Not as bad, once again, I just try to say that as a sense of I can understand to a point. I don't know their particular situations. I don't know them. But I would be amiss to say that. It's the same thing with sugarcane fields that were used in Cuba before the revolution, or whatever the case may be. And if we want more of a real left, we have to promote the ideas of, yes, of liberation, but also of the idea that, one of the problems of the left today is that we have to, everybody can get on the boat. It's like, well, there's someone that, there's someone that's pansexual. Well, let's accept them in. And it's more of an anarchist thing, not necessarily a Marxist-Leninist thing, because, look at the CPGBML under the Brar family in the United Kingdom. But, in general, particularly in the West, particularly the United States, everybody can be accepted into the boat. When you do that, the message gets lost and you alienate people. And they just, once again, the left just says, well, anyone that, doesn't respect, conservative, or anyone that's, more conservative, or they see, that they respect religion, or they don't like transgenderism or homosexuality, then they must have brain worms. Ooh. That distances yourself further from the working class. That should be a no shit Sherlock moment. when you have those sorts of ideas where it's just like, where you simply just say they're brainworms. And of course, like I said, once again, this is the idea of the online world. Now, the right fails because, well, we fetishized, I say we, but, a lot of more alt-right fetishized more pan-Europeanism. Pan-Europeanism, just like most pan ideas, are ridiculous. At least in this present day and age, they are ridiculous. Because there are specific differences. It's like, if you say pan-Europeanism, people are going to say, oh, well, yeah, the 100 Years' War, the 30 Years' War, World War II, World War I, when the hell were they ever unified in any specific way? Look at what's going on in Italy today. Is the European Union sending people? Probably to a point. But what's being seen in the news? China is sending people. Russia is sending people. Cuba is sending people to Italy. And of course, people are seeing this, rightfully so. Even I have to admit that we are seeing that because the United States has lost the ball. It's that simple. We have lost the initiative in the United States. So we're going to see that more and more. Now, I say these things realizing that I will always be an American. I don't say that, to be like, oh, say, can you see? No, it's not because of that. I say that because my mindset is still in the American way. I'm never going to be seen as European. I've listened to too much hip hop in my life. Germans would not like me. The Welsh would not like me. They would, or whoever wouldn't like me, because I'd still be like, oh, daggum, Biggin, what's going on? So I realize that, there's all these different complications, all these different groups, a lot of the leftists, a lot of the real extreme leftists, like the Maoists and, the third worldists, they're like, well, get out of here, Whitey. Get out of here, cracker. But Europe doesn't want us. I've said this before. One of my first videos, at least, that I left up was, about Europe and this idea. It's like, white folks in America, we're just mystery meat. That's the reality. So that's why I try not to get into the whole race thing, because it's such a fucking mess. And people have ruined it. They have ruined it. We was Aryans, we was Greeks, we was Kangs, we was, Incas, we was Mayas and shit. This continent has ruined that idea. And you can blame Europeans. Go ahead and do that. But damn it, it's been ruined. And people can be exploited many different ways. And they can be bamboozled. And they can be tricked into believing these things. Because they think they're going to get something good at the end. A lot of the times, it's not going to happen. It's just one of those things where you have to, where you eventually, as you get older, you draw lines in the sand. For me, as I've said this before, I'm 35, almost 35, close enough. I draw lines in the sand where I say, no. And maybe that's a bit arrogant of me, especially considering the way that the economy is going in the United States. It probably is. Because eventually you're going to have to do whatever you can find. Believe me, I've been through plenty of, of jobs like that. I've been through plenty of, those types of jobs. Not as tough as some people, I'm sure. Once again, I'm not here to play the, the oppressed Olympics or whatever the case may be. I'm just saying is that I've experienced that to a point. Not as much as some people. But the thing is that we have to be aware of exploitation that, dare I say it, and it's going to be real revisionist, and I'm sure that people will say this is very, very cringe. Revisionism can be both sides. That the person that retweets that Chinese video, as much as they say we're against Trump, but we're going to retweet a video about China, you're playing into his hands. He is exploiting you while you are exploiting the Chinese by, showing a video of a Chinese dude doing whatever to a dog. All right. I'm not going to say the words. I don't feel like it. So to me, it takes two to tango on exploitation. It's the same type of thing, dare I say it, when you had these people that were part of the Einsatzgruppen, or they worked at the concentration camps. These are folks that a lot of the time they were not frontline guys. They were never going to be frontline guys. These were never going to be the good-looking guys like Joachim Piper. They were never going to be those types of people. They were these were guys who were accountants. They were, day laborers, whatever the case may be. And they robbed. And they robbed the Jews. And they took whatever they wanted. It's the same type of thing, dare I say it. I'm making a very bad comparison, but when I used to work for housing authority, when somebody passed away and you went into their apartment, as they called it, you had dibs on whatever you wanted. That is, dare I say it, that is the way capitalism is. Is it in exchange for your loyalty? They just give you the option to loot. So that works two ways. Is that you're thinking, hey, I can get some cheap stuff and send home, or whatever the case may be. Ooh, yeah, free stuff. But they make you complicit in their crimes, so that you are just as complicit as they are. Think about that. It's the same thing with the military. Is it maybe you wanted to pay for college? Maybe it's just because, you were one of these guys who just wanted to blow shit up, or maybe you did want to make the green grass grow by spilling blood, bright red blood on the ground. You become complicit in those crimes the same way. So the exploitation works two ways. One person exploits you, and obviously, this is part of the thing. Who is a real exploiter? Do we want to go into, is it just capitalists? Is it just your commander? Is it just this and that? I say this realizing that maybe exploitation in a way won't stop. But we at least need to recognize it. And once again, a lot of people just say, well, it's the capitalists, or it's just this small group of people. And it's not just a small group of people, because they manipulate things so that it's everybody. So it's easy to just say, well, it's just the capitalists, or it's just the people with the yarmulkes. But it's much more complicated than that. Like I say, maybe this is more centrist talk. Maybe this is revisionist. So be it. Or Soviet. Either way. But it's something to think about. As I get older, and while I try to hide behind my own nihilistic ways, or I hide behind my laziness, or my whatever you want to call it, I'll probably just simplify and just call it nihilism. My don't give a fuck attitude. Is that sometimes I look beyond that. Or that I'm forced to look beyond that. And I look at it. Sometimes I think about something and I cry for a minute. and I control it. Because I know that I don't have the energy, I don't have the strength to spend 10 minutes crying. When you get older, you don't have the strength to do that. You don't have the energy to do that. It's something to think about. It's kind of went all over the place, but basically it's just to say that, exploitation, at the very least, we need to at least understand how exploitation works. And maybe this is, basic bitch type stuff, and a lot of people will say, man, it's very basic what you're saying. Maybe so. But I hope someone at least takes some thought from this. And it's easy to, if it's easier for a group to say that it's capitalists, and if they're going to make some change, go for it. If you're a Marxist-Leninist or a Marxist-Leninist Maoist, and you say, we're going to take care of the exploiters and the capitalists and the landlords, by golly, go for it. Just tell me so that I can get out of the way. But to me, I still have the deep down feeling that human beings haven't changed that much in however long. And you know what? Let me add this in too at the end while I'm probably going to mess it up. But, I saw that Extinction account. I think I'm pretty sure it's a troll account on Twitter, sorry. And it's pretty clear that it's trolling. It's pretty clear that account is trolling. I wouldn't say it's eco-fash. I think that they've, maybe they're just trolling. Maybe they're just disgruntled. Who knows? But, when they do say that humans are the problem, it's like, yeah, they'll say, yeah, it is humans. Well, it's capitalism. And people are just so upset because this system, they think Extinction Rebellion is this thing that's actually helping to change the narrative. And to have someone that says that humans are the virus and Corona is the cure. I'm not going to go all antinatalist, and I'm not going to completely ruin what I said. I'll ruin some of it, but this is also a form of exploitation, is that these people get so indoctrinated in believing that this group is going to change things, that when someone comes in and says, in my opinion at least, follows their logic to its end, follows it to its logical end, is that, if it's, like it's, read settlers, bro. Oh, the white union leaders weren't good people either. They were just as racist and everything else. And then you find out, oh, well, the Chinese were racist, this and that. And then the logical endpoint, at least in my view, is, I don't believe this. I'm just saying is that this is the logical point, is that when you get all this and you really take in everything, you say, well, oh, the Europeans were awful to the Native Americans, or, oh, these people were, but then you fall into the whole, model, the model minority, or they fall into the whole noble savage idea, which has been tested a lot and which has overall been debunked. But they still rely on, they still fetishize these Native American tribes. And to me, my way to troll them is just like, you mean those Native Americans that have casinos? Now, of course, ultimately, they did that for survival. The Comanche Nation, I spent some time in Oklahoma, but you'll see that they have a lot of power. And of course, this is one of the false dichotomies and the false ideas of exploitation, is that they will refer to the First Nations tribes in Canada. They will talk about various smaller tribes in certain areas, but they will, they don't want to look at the other side of it. And they will see other tribes that decided to play the capitalist game. And they decided to set up casinos. And once again, I'm going to dox myself here, but going from Burke Burnett and y'all know, if you've been to the area, you know, you go over Berkman, you know, you go over the road, you go over the, you know, the bridge there, where you see where, you know, the river really doesn't exist, and you'll say, well, you know, you get right over there, Welcome, Oklahoma. You go right under that overpass, or maybe you go, you know, you use the overpass, and there are those two big old casinos that you can see out in the distance. Comanche Nation Casino, and I can't remember the other one. But then you get to, you know, you get closer to Lawton, and you'll see that one that's right there in town. And you'll see these folks. And of course, there'll be people who will say, no, those are $5 Indians. This and that. And, you know, you think about it. Then it kind of goes out to the idea of race. And say, well, how can you prove that they're actually Native Americans? Oh, we don't like race, so, you know. And that real true lefties be like, no, we don't do things by race, you know. Contradictions show up. Now, are they exploited? Comanches? Yeah, they were. They were once tough fighting men. You know, these were some of the toughest Native American tribes, or First Nations tribes, or indigenous tribes, whichever you want to say, that existed in the West. You know, look at Geronimo. They still have, once again, if you go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, I wouldn't recommend it necessarily because it's kind of a boring base, a boring post, but, you know, and there's a museum, and they'll show the footage of allegedly where the basement, where Geronimo was, where he dragged, he had the ball and chain around him, and he went all around the, you know, in that dirt, you know, the dirt floor basement, going all around. And, you know, you think about it, even I went to Cameron University, and I went through the ROTC program, and they had Nunima, you know, I think it's Nunima Noyaka. I think that's what but anyway, it's just, you know, drive on us. I can't remember what it is. Yeah, I think it's Nunima Noyaka, though. The ROTC program up there. So they even exploit the Comanches. Now, of course, Comanches play the game. They decided to become their own exploiters. And they decided to get their own revenge economically. They decided to get their blood, not in revenge in terms of, you know, we're going to fight these folks or we're going to fight for our land. Instead, we're going to do that off the side, but we're going to get our money from casinos. Now, of course, you don't, you know, that's one of the interesting dichotomies, isn't it? You'll have the very poor tribes, you know, like the Sioux and the other, you know, a lot of the, you know, the Navajo, well, I was going to say Navajo, but, you know, and other tribes like that, for example, you know, up there fighting for the, you know, against the Keystone Pipeline. But they won't talk about, like I say, they won't talk about the ones, you know, they won't talk about the indigenous tribes that were moved to Oklahoma during the Trail of Tears. You don't hear them talk about that. And of course, I know people will say, oh, well, they get tax money too. And this, yeah, I know they do. But they still get, you know, it's like the same thing with WinStar Hotel. I mean, it's WinStar casinos and everything else. They all do that. This has kind of turned into a longer rant. And hopefully there's a stream there. But I just, you know, let me get back to the point. The exploitation is in the eye of the beholder. It exists. And to me, as I said before, it's always going to exist. The real question is, to what degree does it exist? And are people dying from it? Or are people in fear for their lives because of it? I think that's one of the more crucial questions. You know, they talk about abolishing this or getting rid of that. To me, you know, ideas still live in the mind. This is why, as I said before, is that when you read Lenin and you read State and Revolution, as I've read a little bit of, is that you can destroy the bourgeoisie state. You can destroy that. But the state in general withers away. There's a lot of lesson in that. I think I explained a little bit of this in the other video, but I'll say it here. Is that when you can get rid of you can get rid of the stock market, but people are still going to live. There's still going to be remnants of people who still believe in the stock market and still believe in, okay, well, let's worry about futures, this and that, and that people are still going to have that in their minds. It's the same thing with okay, yeah, we the economy is destroyed and we're going to rebuild socialism. People are still going to want, in this country anyway, people are still going to want to celebrate Thanksgiving. They're still going to want to celebrate Christmas. Maybe not the same, exploitive, over commercialized, system that we have today, but they're still going to want some semblance of it. Same thing with New Year's. Same thing with, Independence Day. We have to think about that. Even when, I put it this way, if we don't want to use American context, let's use a Russian context. Once the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, we saw that, of course, there was a lot of turmoil in the 90s with, the neoliberal system under the drunk guy. Oh my goodness, Yeltsin. There we go. Yeah, Boris Yeltsin. Sorry. And we saw generally a lot of poverty. But then Putin came in, and we saw the fork in the road. Well, I should say that the side-by-side road that he laid, where he gave respect to the czarist history. There have been statues that have been built for the czars. I can't remember their names offhand, but if you want to, you can do that. And that you can gladly correct me. Some czarist ideas have been brought back. And of course, the Russian Orthodox Church has been brought back to its glory, no longer a Soviet puppet as it became, particularly during Stalin's era. But also, he has continued on to have May Day, which is, originally that was a pagan holiday, but it was also very much known as a socialist holiday, as a holiday in the Soviet Union. Victory Day, victory over National Socialist Germany, over Nazi Germany. They continue to celebrate that. They continue to have T-34 85s going down the way. They still have their current day Russian soldiers dressing up in Red Army uniforms because they want to keep some things going. This is the same type of thing when I was talking about the Hungarian Revolution a little bit. Is after the revolution, there was a bit more Hungarian nationalism. Not too much, just the right amount. A lot of the Soviet symbols, a lot of the Soviet uniforms were taken away. With traditional, with more Austro-Hungarian markings. So for example, the cockle, which was kind of a Prussian thing in general, and also used by the Germans, but that very much Austro-Hungarian. So the Hungarians continued to use that. They continued to, they showed the old Hungarian seal. They didn't do the old, the one that they had before with Machos Rakoshi. So that's what we'll see, and that exploitation will exist. It's not going to be as prevalent. So that's what we have to remember. Once someone gets in charge, that doesn't mean that, exploitation will immediately go away. It's just a matter of where the exploitation is going. Justice is a fickle thing, folks. And if nothing else, in this 34-minute we're getting up to 35 minutes now. This is going to be long. Sorry. This is going to be a long rant, but it's that exploitation is going to exist. It's just a matter of who's being exploited and how bad is the exploitation. That's not me saying, oh, well, we need to abolish it. I'm just saying is that it's going to exist. And it's all a matter of who's on top and who's on bottom, and who is actually doing, who is ultimately the one that's pushing the idea of exploitation. I think I'll keep it there. That was kind of a long rant, and I kind of went off topic, but such is the way. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope someone can get some food for thought, as I did with the video earlier. I think we'll keep it there. So as always, y'all have a good one. I'm just going to say it. God bless. God bless. God bless your family. God bless yourself. And I just say that, if nothing else, is that we all have to be honest with who we are. Maybe that's, once again, now I'm being heretical. I was being reactionary before and more, revisionist. Now I'm being heretical. So it's just, anyway, I think I'm going to end it there. As always, y'all just have a good one. See you later.